So, welcome
What
to another
up?
episode of the Love Podcast. I'm
Love is the
happy.
answer.
Yep, I'm happy to introduce Alicia, one of my good
Yay,
friends
my
here
homie G.
from New York, but we're both living here in Costa Rica. So, I want to touch base with her. She's very interesting. She has a lot of knowledge. So, I just want to touch base on, her life's path, what led her to come to Costa Rica. She's also like a psychic medium and has a lot of healing modalities that she does. So we're going to talk with her today, and we're going to get some good information and
Yeah.
learn some things, and upgrade our life. So first and
Yes.
foremost, just let's start off by telling me about your upbringing.
Yes. You know what's funny? I remember when I met you, and I was just like, I looked at you and I was like, this guy is from New York, like you just have that vibe. And something about Gilly is that, like, when you approach him with good energy, like you're open to making friends, you're open to vibing with people. And I hadn't yet bought my house here. And when I was talking to you, you were talking about how you created this life here for yourself, and with my upbringing, I basically grew up in New York as well, and I grew up in a Caribbean household, and there was a lot of struggles that I faced in that upbringing, including being raised by like a single mom, not having my dad there, and also just trying to find my own way, and I dealt with a lot of difficulties, including depression, including dealing with anxiety in my life. And I was at a place in my life where I was trying to heal myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me to come here to this jungle and to see these people living their life, creating a new life of freedom for themselves, I found myself like really reflecting on my past, reflecting on how I felt trapped in some ways in New York. I was really like seeing how my depression was also in some ways caused by my environment, like I wasn't where I felt like I could flourish.
Exactly. So when you speak on like depression and anxiety, is that because of anything specific, or was it just because maybe school or like friends or
Yeah.
just a family aspect? Like, how did that come about?
It was definitely numerous factors. I feel like it was an accumulation of different things that happened in my life. I feel like in my childhood, even growing up with immigrant parents, you inherently have your own set of traumas, It's just like a different lifestyle because your parents grew up in a different environment than you're here in America, and there's like a different culture there in America, and it's like you're trying to assimilate to this new culture, but at home you're like living in this like third world country like environment.
Sure.
And there was a lot of struggles that I faced with that, just feeling this back and forth with the culture, really trying to find myself, and just like different ways that people were raised in Guyana and things like that, and the way that I was raised in America was very different than how my friends were being raised, some of them not being from immigrant families. And I felt like a lot of barriers, and just I feel like I held on to like a lot of resentment that builds into depression.
So like you were born in Guyana?
My parents were born in
Okay, but
Guyana,
you were
and then
born
I
in
was born in America.
Okay,
But
wow.
something always felt off though with that,
Right.
because I actually was born like 2 years into my parents being here in America, or like 3 years or something like that. So they were still like fresh off the boat, figuring out this country.
Do you think that like the weather in New York had anything to do with it? I'm just wondering, like seasonal depression or not being in the tropical
Depression
environment.
is definitely a thing, and it's so interesting because I never resonated with the cold, and I feel like even my blood knew I wasn't supposed to be here in the cold, and especially during the winter months, I found myself going really inward and feeling like I wasn't supposed to be there. Like it didn't feel natural to me to be just so cold.
And so initially, when you came, because when I met you, that was your first time in Costa Rica? No, right?
No. It wasn't my first time in Costa Rica. It was when I was starting to think about actually moving here. So it was like the first time that I was coming here, like with the potential of moving here. But I actually started coming to Costa Rica because I was working for an international service organization, and I was teaching English to children in Cartago. And this was like 9 years ago. And I used to actually take the bus from San Jose to Puerto Viejo every single weekend.
Oh, okay.
Literally the whole 6-hour journey every
That's crazy.
weekend.
And so what got you to the point where you were thinking like, wow, maybe I should move? Like what tipped you over to say like, I don't want to do this anymore full time in New York City. I want to go ahead and like plant some roots somewhere else.
I feel like I always knew in a way that I didn't want to live in New York full time. But when I was coming here and meeting with people and connecting with people, it was like seeing the people who created the lives for themselves here.
So I motivated you?
Literally.
Did I motivate you?
You literally did,
really?
though. I'm not
That's
even
cool.
joking. Like, you literally, I remember you gave me a whole pep talk. You were like, yo, just do it. Just do it. And it was like, yeah.
I mean, I say just do it, but it's not
but
easy.
not everyone just does it.
Yeah, you have to have the right mindset. And when you came,
it's
I
like
could tell you were focused.
The mindset and the timing, too.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So, like, when you were in New York and you took the trip and you said, you know what, I'm going to try to make a move, did anything specifically happen, or was it a buildup of a bunch of different things?
It was a buildup of a bunch of different things, and I feel like I was at the place in my life where I was looking to invest in property, even though I didn't have property investing money.
Yeah.
I just like felt something, you know?
Yeah.
And like I was like, I just want to see what kind of life I could build for myself, and I've always been really entrepreneurial. And I was even thinking about, okay, I want to host retreats, I want to do all this stuff, and I had these visions. But I wasn't even at the place in my business where I am now, where I have like consistent clients and stuff. Exactly. But it was just like a vision that I had, that I knew that I wanted to follow that. You know, it was a dream.
So guys, this was this 3 years ago?
This was like, I feel like 2 years before COVID.
This was 2 years before COVID.
It was before COVID.
Really?
Yeah, because I had bought my house like right after COVID started.
So this is a testament, because I met her before COVID, and now everything that you just mentioned about owning property and doing retreats and being here in the jungle has actually come to pass. That is nuts. So when I met you, it was a thought in your mind, and now you're actually doing it.
Literally so living it. And that's the thing, is that a lot of people don't realize is when you have a vision in your life, you have to stay consistent with it, consistent with putting in the energy, because it's one thing to say, oh, I'm going to move to Costa Rica, I'm going to build a house, I'm going to start doing retreats, I'm going to build my business. But if you're not literally putting daily energy into that dream, into that vision, then it's just going to disappear. If there was so many times where things were not easy in this process, and there's still little challenges, but it was the fact that every day I'm like, okay, I'm going to start looking into how do I move to Costa Rica. I'm going to start looking into investments. I'm going to start looking into building my business, building systems for my business. I'm going to start like planning actual Excel sheets and all of this stuff. I'm going to start looking into places I can work remotely and all of this stuff, you know? Like,
I'm going to say on camera, yo, I am proud of you, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
That's super dope, man, because when you meet people and you, especially when I met you, it was kind of the beginning of your process. And then, like, remember the time we did the guided meditation, like, you know, that powerful energy. And then you just literally, you did it, you know, and a lot of people are scared to take the jump. But, you know, when you actually do and you see the benefits and you can actually see somebody's journey, that's super cool.
You literally lived through my journey.
Yeah,
but you were literally, honestly, when I think back, you were one of the people who inspired me. I was like, yo, this Brooklyn ass guy is sitting here in the jungle. He's like the Kanye West of the jungle, created his own farm.
And it's such a the thing is, it's such a natural happiness. Like for me personally, when I wanted to own a house, you know, own some land, to me it was just making things easier for myself. So in my mind, I was thinking, if I can own some property in the jungle where the weather is the same all year, meaning I can grow my food all year, that eliminates two struggles. That eliminates having to pay rent, and that eliminates having to buy food. Like now my choice, it's a choice to buy food because I can grow my own.
Yeah.
So then that frees me up to be able to like focus on other things and put my energy toward other things, and not have to
Yeah.
think about, damn, how am I going to pay
And
my rent?
I've seen the birthing of your own businesses too. I remember you coming up to me like in Chile Rojo.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chile Rojo.
Shout out to Chile Rojo.
Restaurant. So I remember you coming up to me. You're like, "Yo, I'm gonna design shirts," and I was like, "Yo, do it." You know, like there's so many people when you started doing that wanted to support you too, because the thing is, you live your brand.
I live my brand,
and that's the thing for a lot of entrepreneurs. The reason why sometimes the stuff they put out doesn't click is because they're not living their brand. They're not living their truth. You know,
that's a fact. That's a fact. And so, when it comes to being like a psychic medium, you know, and guiding me through that meditation and hosting these different events where you're like tapped into another realm, how did that happen? You know, because I've had experiences when I was young where I've had like, you know, night terrors, and I've been attached to, you know, different realms where you don't really understand what's going on. But you seem like you can consciously like see people's future, or talk to maybe loved ones that, you know, aren't around from people and get messages. How does that actually happen? Explain that to me.
So when I was younger, I had a lot of experiences as well. And a lot of natural intuitives and psychics have experiences when they're younger. But by society, especially growing up in a place with like New York, you're taught to close it down.
I want to know specifically.
Yes.
Give me, if you can remember, your first experience.
He's like, yo, I'm trying to talk to
I want to understand these things, because people are so surface level when it comes to life. You know what I'm saying?
So
and like
true.
when it comes to aliens, or when it comes to you know, spirits.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And for somebody who has firsthand experience with connecting to spirits, like that's so interesting to me. You see what I'm saying? So like, what was your first, if you can remember, experience where you were, I don't know if you were contacted or if you just had contact. Were you scared? Did it feel divine? Did you understand? Did you talk to anybody about it? Like, explain that to me, please.
So when I was younger, one of the first spirits that I remember seeing was like, I remember seeing this like older man that would visit me like when I was maybe like 4 or 5 years old, and he was like a butcher. And most people, like when they hear that, like they get scared. They're like, oh my God, like a ghost butcher was visiting you. But he wasn't like scary. But I remember like there was always like a presence in my room. And especially at nighttime when I was falling asleep, I remember like clearly seeing things all of the time. And I also experienced a lot of sleep paralysis too. I would like wake up and I would be like in between these states.
Between realms.
Yes.
Which I think is like, I did some research, and it was like at a certain point when you're sleeping, or when you're about to sleep, or when you're in deep sleep, the frequency of your brain goes into like alpha or beta. It goes into something where I think the fabric of reality is like now different.
In between there,
you're like in between like a certain realm, and that's when they try to contact you. But like for somebody like you, it seems like they see something. And they understand like we can actually communicate with this person. So
here's the thing. I always like had a lot of spiritual experiences when I was younger, starting with this butcher guy. And it was crazy because I would tell certain people about it, and they would literally tell me it was like family members because I was so young. And they would be like, don't talk to that thing. Don't do anything with that. You know, it was very much like, don't tap into that, you know? And one day, actually, one of my neighbors across the street, she was an older woman, and she had lived in that neighborhood for like 70 years. And she was moving out of her house. And I went across the street, and we were helping her pack up her stuff. And then she said to me, I remember before you guys moved into the house, I used to go across the street, and the butcher used to give my dogs food.
Wow.
And I remember at 7 years old clicking, and I was like, that's who I was talking to. I like immediately got chills.
But was he coming through as a friend? Was he like, are these spirits and entities in a place like this, like a purgatory type of state? Because from the research I've done, it's like you pass away,
Yeah.
the energy can either go or it
Yeah.
can like get stuck in a state where like you're in this dimension
Yeah.
and you're doing similar things that you were doing, but
Yeah.
you don't know that you're dead.
That you're dead. Yeah. This is the thing about conscious awareness. I feel like some people, because they haven't done the inner work with their spirit, they sometimes get stuck here to this earth because there's certain things they didn't complete. And sometimes those spirits, literally like the movie The Sixth Sense, they're drawn towards people like myself, for example, that are in between the worlds, that can communicate and connect to try to help them solve. And even me being so young, I had a natural affinity for this spiritual world. So I feel like this spirit was maybe coming to me to try to help solve something, or maybe he wanted a child his whole life or something and never had one, or even was wondering like why there was a whole ass family living in his house. Literally.
That's crazy. That is so crazy, because I just think about that sometimes, because it was a similar situation that happened with me when I was young, and it was a kid that died that was living in the house before me and my family moved in Miami.
Yeah.
And I was having night terrors. I was having sleep paralysis. And then my mom, I think she went to either a pastor or some spiritual medium.
Yes.
And then they burned
they
like
blessed the house basically.
Yeah, they
right?
like burned. I think it was frankincense.
Was it sage or not?
No, it wasn't sage. It was frankincense and myrrh or something like that.
Oh yeah, frank and myrrh.
Yeah, and then it went away.
Yeah.
So what is the like? What does sage do?
Yes.
Or what do these things do that can seep into the fabrics of reality to like tell them to go? Like what happens?
It's so interesting because I feel like the universe provides us with all of
the
the
universe
herbs.
provides.
It literally does. It has the cure for everything, by nature, the cure for everything when you tap in, even for spiritual things as well. And the thing is, like, it's so crazy because they actually did these scientific research studies about sage, and they found that literally when you smudge with sage, the smoke is literally getting rid of bacteria in the air on a scientific level.
Oh, really?
So that's
good information.
That's what it's doing scientifically. Imagine what this is doing spiritually as well. They say that there's something about it like that has been even used in ancient tribes. This is something that humanity has been grown into using in all different types of religions, in all different types. There's always a method to do some sort of cleansing, And it's so interesting how these plants, some of these herbs, can be utilized for that purpose,
For sure. So now let's talk about religion. I'm thinking, just taking a wild guess, Caribbean family. I'm guessing it was Christianity.
Yeah.
Baptist Christian.
I was raised
Seventh-day
Christian. A 7-day Adventist, but actually only because that church was the closest to our house.
Okay.
It wasn't like super strict, but it was just definitely like more Christian upbringing,
So because you were brought up in that space, how did you navigate through that to this point? Is like with your family and spiritual, because sometimes when you're really spiritual, you get to a point where you don't really want to focus on one religion.
Yeah.
So like, how's that working for you?
This is actually like a big part of my journey because at this point I've studied a little bit of every single major religion and have read their text. I've read the Quran, I've read the Bhagavad Gita, I've read like Buddhist philosophy texts, I've read so many different types of religious literature, and I feel, and even the Torah with Judaism as well. And for me personally, I felt like my spirituality became the main part of my journey in life. And I wanted to understand every single facet of the possibilities of existence.
So did you see any similarities throughout all the texts?
100%.
It's pretty similar, right?
They are
it
all
seems
similar.
Like they just changed names.
They're just like echoes of the same truth, And some of them come up with different rules and stuff like that. But here's the thing, like, they're all ultimately talking about being a good human being at the core, That is like the main thing. And every single religion too has its own little dark side where they're trying to control you in some ways, where they're trying to be like, oh, women can't do this or men can only do this. And some of them are even being like, oh, you have to dress like this, or you can't even tap in to like the spiritual world through psychic things. And I feel like when humanity, right, when we adopt religions, it also comes into play a lot of the times with government and about controlling the people. It's like a way to impose onto people like different beliefs to try to keep the masses in a certain box. But ultimately, when you view religion through the lens of what is morality, what is it like to be a good human being, universally, every single religion is kind of like a different perspective or a different like lens of the same truth.
So, like, what I was thinking was when I started doing research on African spirituality, because obviously that's where my roots stem from, Africa. I realized that a lot of the spirituality was based upon deities and ancestors. So, for example, now here's a good example. My grandma passed away when my dad was, I think, like 7 or 8 years old. And throughout his life, he would always say, I know my mom is watching over me, or I know my mom helped me. And I think that because that vein was severed for a lot of like Africans that came through the slave trade, that we don't know our ancestors. You know, so I'm not trying to say like Jesus or these specific people didn't live, but I don't think they're the direct connection to my lineage. You see what I'm saying?
And
like
that's how they take the power away.
Exactly.
That's how they take the power away, by saying that, oh, you need this person, you need to worship this person in order to connect to God, or you need a priest, or you need a pastor, or you need a sheikh, or whatever it is. You need someone else. But when you tap into the true root of spirituality, it's about you recognizing that you are the divine connection to God, and you don't need anyone else to find that connection.
Exactly. That's a big thing, because when you give your power away, it's almost like you're praying to somebody who is not even a direct connection to your lineage.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So then once you realize that all the power is yours, then you can kind of power up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You can kind of manifest
you
a little
go into
better.
Super Saiyan mode, like Gilly.
Really. So like when it comes to spirituality and like, what does your mom say about that? Like, do you talk to her about like your views, and does she have anything to say?
Well, my mom actually was like super Christian when we were growing up, like always super into Jesus. And when I started getting into this stuff, my mom actually had spiritual experiences herself, like seeing ghosts and things like that.
Oh, she did.
She
so
did.
Your mom
She
was tapped in the same way, and maybe it got passed on to you.
That's what I feel. She actually even had an experience when she was younger of leaving her body and astral projecting.
Wow.
And she had an experience when she was giving birth to me that she actually saw her grandmother in the delivery room, like as a ghost, helping her to deliver the baby. And she was always super connected, but the same thing with her is everyone told her not to do this stuff. So her reaction when I was tapping into this stuff, and this is the generational wounds, is no, you shouldn't tap into this, because that's what she was taught. And I always still felt called into this world. And even though people were telling me this stuff, when I was going through my awakening, it was about me trusting my spirit and where I was being led to, and knowing that there was some sort of greater purpose in that, and literally feeling the energy of the universe guiding me in this direction. Wow. And with her, when I started tapping into this stuff, her reaction was like, you shouldn't be doing that. And it was first that, but then she saw like how much and how important it was to me. And she started to recognize how differently I was approaching it than other people. And she also literally started to see the impact that I was making with this stuff, because I wasn't only doing this just to dabble or tap around. Like I was doing this intentionally to like help other people. Sure. So she started to see how I was actually doing this, and literally hearing on the phone people like, thank you for doing this for me, Alicia. Thank you for connecting with my loved one. And thank you for all of this stuff. And she started to realize like, hey, maybe this is like her calling, you know?
So when you say like thank you for connecting to my loved one, like when you meet somebody,
Yeah.
you connect with that specific person, and then after that, maybe an ancestor says, okay, this is a medium that's around somebody that I want to get a
Yeah.
message to, and then they just come to you.
Yeah, so let me explain to you because you asked a little bit before too. So the process of me actually opening up to do this work is a lot of people don't realize, but I literally basically went to school for this.
Oh, really?
Like I
trained. So you can train
you
yourself.
can train with this. Like I trained with like 3 different mentors, taking different courses and stuff, learning how to open up intentionally as a medium because I knew this was my calling, and I actually studied for like over 2-3 years, learning different techniques, learning different spiritual techniques, learning how to go about it the right way, learning how to protect myself, also how to work with energy, different connections to ancient practices. And even like it was a whole process. It was literally like going to school where I was part of different programs, and literally every single week we had to do this.
It was like what's
Hogwarts.
That? Yo, it was like that school. But the thing is like with you, right? You already had the natural connection, so you just honed your skills. And I didn't even know they had schools like that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's not official schools. A lot of the times it's just like a teacher that's like, okay, I'm going to teach class for like 8 weeks or something. And I do some of these classes now too to help other people open up now that I've learned from different people.
I'm interested in these things. I'm interested in these things.
Yeah.
And so when you think about Costa Rica, right? You know, Costa Rica is a very lush, energetically like, you know, abundant space.
The veil is thin here.
Yeah, so I was gonna get into like why Costa Rica. Do you think that this land here for some reason has powered you up more?
Yeah.
Has given you like more energy?
It's so interesting because even Alan Watts, if you're familiar with him, he's one of my favorite philosophers, and he has all of these incredible speeches.
Alan Watts. I'm not familiar with him, but I will get familiar with him.
Oh my God, you're about to go down a rabbit hole because he talks about so many powerful things spiritually, and he even talks about like the concepts of human consciousness and reincarnation and tapping into the spiritual world. Like he's one of the like OG spiritual leaders, like in the 1970s started this movement of bringing like Eastern philosophy to the United States. Like you're gonna just dive into this rabbit hole. You probably even heard his speeches before because he does like these podcasts on YouTube. He's passed away since then, but he like has like all of these speeches that people like put out on YouTube, and even make music with his speeches too. It's crazy. I'll show you him later. But basically, one of the things that he talks about is how in third world countries and countries like that are in like the jungle kind of area, the veil is so thin because it's like teeming and bursting with life, but at the same time in duality, it's also so prominent with death as well. It's like the extreme polarity of this place. Is he talks about how something can just grow and change and be here, and then it's just consumed. Like the energy of the jungle is like to consume too.
Yeah, and the thing is, you're right about that. Like things so easily are abundant here, but then like things so easily die and then are consumed immediately.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So you think that it's the like jungle actually, for a human being, takes your power, you know, to another level.
It does, because when you're here, you can channel into that abundant energy of life. It's like things flourish here, and you're so connected to nature. Like you have no choice but to be connected to nature. Sure. Like even in this nice, luxurious home, I'm still dealing with the elements when I'm here. Sure. And people don't realize that like sometimes people like look at this lifestyle and they're like, oh my God, you're on the beach all the time. You have like these beautiful houses, but there's also challenges in being here that people don't recognize.
And I think these are all challenges because of the way we were raised.
Yes.
You know, see, like right now, like in my mind, when I think about raising my son, I think about like raising him in a way where it's not a challenge. It's a
Yeah, because he's
lifestyle.
gonna be
This is a
in this
lifestyle.
lifestyle growing up.
Yeah, this is
And
what's
for
going on.
us to get to be used to like New York society and stuff, like you're not exposed to the elements of nature in this way. You don't learn how to farm.
No.
You don't learn how to garden. You don't learn how to even tune into your intuition naturally. Like you're taught to like, all right, I'm gonna like drive my car and go here and like be in this and you know get things ordered to my house and do this and like it's very technology based in a lot of ways and it's like very catered the life that we have, you know. But here it's like if you don't go out and do your stuff, like you're literally not gonna have certain things.
That's a fact. That's a fact. So now with the retreats and with the service to others, you know, I know you're really, really into serving others and letting people. I'm not saying take your energy, but your energy is so big that people can be
I have
around
to like
you.
pour into a lot of people.
Exactly.
Definitely.
So talk to me about the retreat space and you know how you've changed people's lives. Like talk to me about that.
It's so crazy because literally there's some women who came to my retreats that are now trying to move to Costa Rica.
That is crazy.
Literally.
You're changing people's lives.
Literally.
That's a big deal.
But this is the intention, and I feel like a lot of us who've been magnetized into the jungle, this is part of our purpose, is to show people another way of being. You're literally doing the same thing. Like how many of your friends have you connected to? Like even Leanna, for example, like you connected to her and you're like, yo, this is the life. This is this. Like she literally has a whole life here.
That's crazy when you think about it.
You know, it's like you literally change the trajectory of someone's
And then,
life.
you know, that's another reason why I am doing this Love podcast because, you know, when I moved here, obviously a lot of my friends were like, what
are you doing there?
But now that I'm here, I want to show
it.
you guys, you know, through my lens, the people that I meet, you know, that are like basically doing the same thing as I'm doing. And it's real. Like we're really out here. I know a lot of my friends see my journey and probably thinking like, damn, like you're living the life and it's possible for everybody. You just have to tap in. So that's why I want to do these podcasts so I can get with individuals that are doing similar things. And you're doing it on a macro level. I'm doing it on a micro level. I'm just chilling. I'm in my lane. Like you're actually hosting retreats and bringing people here and showing them the life and giving them the power that they can, you know, make the move or, you know, take their level to another level, you know?
I would say everyone also has their different calling, you know? For some people, they literally come to the jungle and they're like, that's it. I'm not on social media anymore. I'm just going to chill. I'm just going to live my life, you know? Like, I feel like Ryan is like that. He's just like, yo, I'm just in the jungle. I'll see you when you get here.
But I do feel like in this life, I feel like once you tap in and you think you figured something out, I feel like it's our
duty.
Yeah, to like spread the knowledge and be service to others so that at the end of your life, right?
Yeah.
If you did a life review and they say, yeah, you know, you passed the test, how many people did you help?
Yeah.
Like what was your influence in a positive way on this planet?
Yes.
How many trees did you plant?
Yes.
Like how much people consciously did you affect? That's a big deal.
I feel like I really live in this world. Like ever since I was younger, I always used to say, and this was like a quote I would always say, like literally growing up in high school and stuff like that, I would always say, I want to be a millionaire in the sense that I positively impact the lives of 1 million people. And I would literally used to say that since I was in high school. And I never knew how that was going to happen. I used to think it was through politics, and I started off working in politics, and I was like, but at the end of the day, this was always part of my soul, like always part of my mission, you know?
Yeah, so I have a question. Right when you said millionaire, right? The first thing that popped into my mind was Dubai. That's the first thing that popped into my mind was Dubai.
Yes.
And I know that you've been to Dubai.
I love it.
And so now this is where it gets crazy because New York is New York. You know, New York is a melting pot of a lot of different cultures. It's basically like the new England basically was New York, right? And then now you have Costa Rica. Costa Rica is like a supernatural land. Everything is super like free, super nature based. And then you have now Dubai. You know what I'm saying? Where like when I think of Dubai, I think of oil
money.
I think of large, extremely large sums of money. You know what I'm saying? I think everything is based
Yeah.
off of a materialistic lifestyle. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So now explain to me, 'cause I know you love Dubai.
I
You see what I'm
do.
saying? Now explain
It's
to me about
crazy.
Dubai and like what.
This is something that's so interesting because my soul is so drawn there, and I always felt connected to Arabic culture. Like when I first had past life regressions and stuff, I would remember myself as like this like princess in the desert. I'm like
Past
not
life
even joking.
regression.
I've had dreams of myself living in the desert, and I never went, but I literally always intuitively knew that I would love the desert. And like when I finally got the opportunity to go, I went to Dubai. And one thing that I first felt, I was like, this is New York in the 1920s when we were really up and coming and bustling. Like the energy there, it's so interesting because right now there's so much newness that's being created there. There's so many entrepreneurs, there's so many people that are literally impact driven, working online, and all willing to help each other because we're all like on that entrepreneurial boat, racing together. So it's interesting because we're all multidimensional beings, right? We're all dynamic beings. Like there's part of me that's like nature girl, that's like Costa Rica girl, that's like connected to the land. That part of me doesn't like the giant bugs, but I'm still here. I'm still here. For sure. It's literally a challenge, but you don't get it until you're here. And then there's part of me like that's the New York girl that's like, okay, like, you know, I still enjoy aspects of life. And then there's part of me that's literally the Dubai girl. And, you know, I feel like I am an abundant being. Like I love to be abundant, but I've worked hard to create a life of abundance, you know? Like some people don't realize how hard I work. Like Drake has this quote in one of his songs. He's like, "Yeah, I'll be working 9 to 5. I'll be working 9 to 9." Like that's literally so real.
So listen. So the thing is, with me,
Yeah.
personally, I just feel like Dubai. I don't know because I've never been there, but I feel like Dubai will be the polar opposite of here.
It is in some ways, and it's interesting because even though it's the polar opposite in so many ways, like the landscape, the culture in some ways, because right there's like literally everyone's like naked in Costa Rica, literally, like
everybody's naked, everybody is free, everybody is, you can spit wherever you want. I heard in Dubai you couldn't even spit,
but here's the thing,
you get arrested for spitting.
There's so much fear that's been portrayed by the media between the Middle East and America. Like this is the dialogue that we're being fed, that the Middle East are all restrictive against women, they're all like this, they're all like that, and you don't know until you actually go there that it's literally not like that. You can literally wear whatever you want for the most part, except if you're going to like a mosque or something, which is like a holy place that you should respect anyways. But it's actually more open than most people think. And there's also this spiritual movement that I've seen going on there. And being there on the ground is when you actually find out about it, because they're not going to say all of this stuff in the media. But there's literally so many meditation centers that I went to while I was there with people that are my age, that grew up watching social media, watching things in the Western world, that are like, wow, there's like this spirituality, something that I could tap into more beyond my religion, that people are now feeling the calling to tap into this level of freedom. So there is that energy there where like there's all of these entrepreneurs that are also seeking their spiritual freedom as well, that I've connected to.
But you don't think that because of the amount of money that is flowing through that country, that it is, how can I say it, like, I don't know, like because there's so much money flowing through there, it seems like it's fake.
It's like tainted.
Yeah.
But here's
I'm not sure. Yeah. But like, do you feel that like everything is like materialistic, and how much money do you have, and that's not real life though.
So that culture exists there, but there's also the duality of people who are just trying to create a life for themselves. I feel like there's a very small percentage that is just extremely materialistic. But I would say is even the rich people that I've met there, they're still into bettering themselves through self-development, which also includes meditation, mindfulness, and spirituality. And I think another thing too is in some ways that we've been conditioned to kind of feel this thing where it's like negative to be abundant. It's negative to be that rich. It's negative to be that. But I've literally met holistic billionaires who have literally created incredible mindfulness meditation platforms to further their message. And with the abundance that they've created, they've been able to make such a long-standing impact and literally transform millions of people's lives through their platforms.
You know what I think when I think about a billionaire? I think if you're a billionaire, right, that means that you should be able to take $100 million, right, and build likely a community
Yeah.
that's fully solar powered. Everybody can have a battery operated bicycle or a Tesla, and still have enough room to grow and cultivate all your own food.
Yes.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
So if every billionaire is not doing that,
Yeah.
like if every billionaire did that, nobody would have to work.
Yeah.
Everybody would just have electric power things. Everybody can go into their power and say, okay, this is what I want to do because all the easy things are taken care of. My food is here, my car is here, my house is here. Isn't that don't you think that's true?
There are some billionaires that are doing things like this, though, that are investing in regenerative properties. Even here in Costa Rica, if you know Stephen Brooks, he's literally built so many different lands. But even in Dubai, there are people looking into things like regenerative farming. And there's certain buildings that you go into that are literally trying to incorporate nature because it was built from the desert. If you see Dubai 30 years ago, one of the most inspiring things about that to me is it literally came from nothing. It was all sand, and everything that they have now has been built from the mind of a human being. And it's just crazy to see what our potential is. And what I would say is they made the most of what they had. And there are certain people who are now working into like farming and things like that, making different buildings so there's like food sources and sustainability. But we don't hear about that stuff because there is also like, I feel like human beings are scared of polarity. Like we're scared of the opposite of us, you know? And there's a lot of like restrictive things in the media that's shared about countries like that just aren't true, but you don't know that until you actually go there and you actually make friends with the people that are there and you're like, yo, they're not like that. And that's just what the media is portraying. Like they want us to be divisive and they want us to like stay away from each other.
So when it comes to politics, media, spiritual warfare, what is your take on these things? Like, why do you think that these things happen? Specifically, spiritual warfare and like taking the energy of people and controlling the masses. Why do you think? What do you think the end game is for these things? And also, I wanted to tap in with that question on aliens. You know, if that's something you can touch base on, just like why is that a hidden thing? Like, why are these things being hidden from us?
This is so interesting because it gets really cosmic when it comes to some of this stuff, right? I've studied a lot of different forms of spirituality, a lot of different forms of even religion and things like that. And it's so interesting because when you really zoom out into the universe and people could get lost just by thinking this big, like there's definitely other life out there, you know, like it's just like no question about it. But at the same time, when people start to look into like what agenda could that other life have for us, like, and people are like, are we in an experiment? Like what's actually going on here? Like, I do believe that part of it is like the government wanting to control us and control our energy and just feed off of us, you know? I feel like they feed off of hatred. They feed off of the money that we pour into them through the wars, through the divisiveness. And when we come together in unity, they lose out because we can gang up in masses. You know, even what's going on right now, like with Judaism and Muslims, you know, like there's so much going on with divisiveness, but when you actually look into the core of both religions, they have so many different similarities.
Yeah.
You know, at its core and at its roots.
But they're going at each other. It's like, wow.
But the media created a huge part of this divisiveness, you know. They've been fed and raised from both sides dialogues to hate each other, and part of it as well is because they're forced to share resources. That's where the number one source of conflict happens from, is when two groups have to share the same resources. Then that's when racism comes in. That's when, you know, phobia of the other side comes in. It's like when you're trying to when there's like a feeling of lack, you know, that's where our inherent as a human being, we're like literally creatures at the end of the day trying to provide for ourselves. That's where the fighting happens.
You know, it's funny. I was watching this documentary. I forgot what it was called. I think it was something with chimpanzees. I think it was Life of the Chimpanzee. Yo, and they were in the jungle, right? They're in Africa now. I'm talking about the abundant jungle, where there's like an abundance of all these fruits and everything. And they were fighting. Like there was a group of chimpanzees that were fighting another group over like territory and food and trees. And I'm like, yo, they fight too. I'm like, this is crazy. There's so much abundance of stuff, but you guys are somehow like right there at the edge of the jungle here, and this is the edge of this jungle, and then you have to fight to keep like fruits. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the duality goes so deep in every culture and every organism on this planet, where I'm thinking that there's so much land that all humans should be able to live perfectly fine. Like, why are we fighting over food and territory? And but it's like,
but this is like the generational stuff that we're healing, because a lot of the times when we have that scarcity mindset, it's actually adopted from our ancestors, and especially also when we have history of slavery. You're taught to live in this lack mindset, and that's where also a lot of parents who physically abuse their children, when you examine the roots, that's literally what parents had to do to prepare their children for a life of slavery. Is to abuse their child, so when their slave master hit them, they were ready.
Like, I'm gonna give you a whipping. I remember you used to call it, don't let me have to whip you. And it's like, where did this whipping come from? I always thought about it in Africa, you know, if that was even a thing. Like, did kids even get beat? Where did that come from? And I guess, it stems from the trauma from slavery that has now like messed us up for a long time, you know?
I actually read this research study about this, because actually personally, like, I did this whole reflection. I'm like, why would you ever want to harm your child, you know? And I did this whole reflection, and I literally started doing these research. And if you look at the communities that are experiencing the physical abuse, a lot of that comes from abuse from the parents as well. They're taught that behavior. And then you start tracing the lineage back, and so often than not, that abuse somehow stemmed from your great grandparents being slaves.
For sure. Where would you learn it from? Where would you learn it?
100%.
You know, you have to learn it from something. And that's when you said, like, the media, the television programming, that like actually programs people's brains. You see what I'm saying? Like, they program us to hate this person or to hate that person. There's a lot of hatred in the programming. And I think that's another thing that kind of keeps people stressed out, keeps people down, keeps people thinking that they can't do things that they really have the power to do. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I don't know how much time, probably, how long you think we've been talking for? It's probably been like
45 minutes.
45 minutes. Yeah, I want to keep it to like an hour. So I want you to tell everybody, you know, about like what your retreats encompass, you know, how often you do them, and just give them some information on that before we wrap up.
So one thing I've actually been stepping into as well is like, there's so many, I feel, creative people here in Puerto Viejo as well. And one thing that I've been doing is helping other people do their own retreats as well. Because sometimes people step into their power and they're like, oh, I'm just going to do this for myself.
I want to get into the retreat. I don't want to call it retreats, but I want to get into
Yeah.
the
Group
space of
experiences.
having friends come here, providing an
Yeah.
experience, and
Yeah.
showing them the light. I mean, all of my friends that come visit, but I want to take it to
Yeah.
another level. So yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. So I've been helping other people set up their own retreats and group experiences for people now too.
Mm-hmm.
So the main thing that I do with retreats, I do my own retreats like maybe twice or three times a year. And a lot of the times it's like a group sisterhood healing experience, and it's my retreats are exclusively for women right now. Maybe in the future sometime I'll also incorporate men. But
No, you're doing a good job with the women. The women need
yeah,
healing.
they do need
They need healing, and
healing.
you are really
And
doing a
it
good
just
job.
like also sets the tone for the container too, when it's like all women, we're all here to heal, and just a conversation can be different. And one of the things too that I'm helping people with is like stepping into the power of their business. So even when they come down here, they're getting to explore the beauty of nature, getting to explore this lifestyle. But then I'm also starting to teach other women how to market themselves and how to actually create this life for themselves by creating their business online, because so many people want this life, but they don't realize like if you get on your online game and you have systems, and even like for yourself, like you have your business set up for yourself that provides you with like, you know, you're making your impact, you're spreading your message, but you're also like have this like extra passive income source coming in that can help create this lifestyle for yourself, and how to create that.
So yo, guys, tap in with Alicia. I mean, you
Yes.
see what she's providing. So if you have any questions, I'll have her information obviously in the bio, and then the link to her Instagram page. But yeah, she's doing big things, and this
Yes.
is
Big things.
these are good things to do, because now that the online world is booming, everything's going online.
Yes.
Everything's like AI based. You know, people
Yes.
can like you can leave. You don't have to be in the USA. You don't have to be in Costa Rica. You can be anywhere you want, and with you providing people with the opportunity to learn how to grow their business, how to live abroad, and then do this basically the same. Like you have three homes basically. You have New York, you have here, and you have Dubai. Like you're living your dream, like in real
Literally.
life. And so a
Yeah.
lot of people, they see these things and they think like, how can this be done? And that's what's good to tap into these different retreats, because you can learn and you can help people, and then they can help people, and then this could be a different world in about
It's
10,
like an
20 years.
infinite impact, you know, it's like the domino effect. Like you sometimes have to be that first one.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, if you don't take that leap, then you can't impact the people that are
For sure.
supposed to be after
For
you.
sure. And it's a big deal. Impacting people, to me, I think that when it's all said and done, I think we're going to be graded on our impact.
Yeah, I think
Like,
so
what
too.
did you do to, like, yeah, you can help yourself, but what did you do to help others?
Yeah.
How many people did you help? I think it's a
Yeah.
very important thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I'm gonna wrap
We're
it
doing
up.
it.
I'm gonna wrap it
Wrap
up.
that up.
This is not gonna be the first conversation I'm having with Alicia.
Yeah.
We're gonna have several conversations, but I just don't want to go too long. I want you guys to understand, what she's doing here, how we met, and what we're currently trying to do for the world. And yeah, this is
Love
also
is the answer.
this is
Love
also
is
my
the
every
answer.
time I do a podcast, we're gonna talk about my clothing line. It's the Love Podcast. Love is the answer. You can see my merch online, and also before we wrap up, what do you think that love is? Like what would be your definition of love, and how do you incorporate it into your life?
The answer.
Good. Nice.
But honestly, I think that love is like an energy, it's a vibration, right? And I think it needs to start with self-love. And this is something I really had to learn for myself, because sometimes you're pouring from something you don't have,
For sure.
And I think that love is like, it's literally our connection to this earth, because when you look at the people who are suicidal and look at the people who are depressed, it's like they're so out of tune with their love for this earth, their love for this life.
That's very true.
And I feel like God is love.
Yeah, love is very, very important. Very important. And I feel like because you love not only yourself, but you love like life and what you do, that you're able to function on a higher level. Because you have that innate, like, like it's real. You're beautiful. You're a beautiful person.
Fam. So are you.
Nice, man. So thank you, thank you,
Love
thank
is
you,
the
thank you. Love is the answer, guys. And we will be back with another episode soon. But
Stay tuned
stay
for
tuned.
more. But
now-
wait, there's more.
Nice. Yo, thanks a lot.
Yes, that was good.
Yo, we could have went off forever,
I know,
man.
literally. Oh, this is
Oh,